Hello, welcome to the channel ALM for You. My name is Jagmohan Singh Chawla and I'm a product manager with SAP Cloud ALM. So this channel will help you understand the latest and greatest information about SAP Cloud ALM, especially in the implementation area. Before we proceed, a standard disclaimer. That means that some of this information may be, slightly out of date by the time you see the video, and please make your due discretion before consuming this information. So you can also pause the video and read the disclaimer. Let's get started. We deliver productive software uh, on a bi-weekly basis, and it can become challenging. So I just thought that maybe videos like this can help you easily consume what are the latest innovations that we have done. So let's start with the renaming. We did change some names, and let's get into the details. One of the name that we changed is the tile projects. Earlier it was called projects, but now the definition of this tile is increased. It's not just about project, but also about the setup that goes with the project. As an example, this helps you set up roles, which are reusable entities across projects, and also landscape. That's where we changed the name of the tile. Then we also did a label change. Earlier, this label was called just template, but now we call it SAP Activate Task Template because currently all the templates are provided only via SAP Activate methodology. Then the third rename is actually in our feature capability. So we have in the features, we had an option called deploy, but we decided to rename it to deploy to production, which is more representative of the behavior. Okay, then let's proceed with the changes in a new concept, deployment and release planning. So this will take some time, so let's go into that slowly. So I'll go to the project setup one more time and start with a new tab called System Groups. So what is a system group? Before I deal and explain you this new capability, let's take a recap of the existing capability, which was a tile called Project Landscape in your SAP Cloud ALM tenant. So this application had some limitations which are now addressed with this latest update. So system group is nothing but a collection of systems belonging to one product. You can create as many system groups as you want, even for the same product line. As an example, I have created two system groups, both for SAP S/4HANA Cloud, because that may be a valid situation for large customers. I can also create a different system group for a completely different product line. As an example, success factors. So let's do that, and I can pick something which is relevant, and based on the system selection which I do, then I can assign the appropriate tenants, and we use the word tenants and systems interchangeably. So in this case there is no backend data maintained, otherwise I would be able to assign it. Let's also see from where do we get this information. The list of systems or tenants is provided by Landscape Management Service, and it's the same information which is shared between SAP Cloud ALM implementation and SAP Cloud ALM operations. So to get to the Landscape Management Service, you can go to the Fiori Launchpad, you can navigate to Administration, and you can come to this area. And the definition of systems which is defined here is the same definition which will be available for your system groups. Please note that the products are called service types in landscape management, but they eventually mean the same thing. They are called differently because of the different use case in monitoring. Okay, so after we are done creating with the system groups, let's see what are the subsequent activities. So I create my system groups belonging to multiple product lines, but if I want to use them together, then what is the entity which is higher aggregator entity? And that entity is called a deployment plan. So deployment plan has multiple purposes. So the deployment plan caters to your landscape information as well as your timeline information. And also This deployment plan could be relevant for multiple projects. So let's call a hire to retire deployment plan and maybe just give a date just to make it easy. And I can create a release schedule. So this release schedule will be representative of my deployment intention. Typically, you put a release timeline with an intention to deploy at the end of that release. And where do we use these releases? That's a very important question. We use these releases in requirement and feature planning. So when I create my requirements, I can assign them to a release, and if I'll just use some unique names and let me save it. So now I have a release schedule in my deployment plan. I need this deployment and release planning only if I have a complex landscape and I'm dealing with multiple parallel projects where the PMO office is finding trouble to establish a common heartbeat. In case you have a very simple setup, we have, let's say, a small size team and just one project, then the project time boxes may be sufficient for you, and you really do not need to set up this release and deployment planning. So again, you decide, does it even apply to you? And if it does not, then you don't need to worry about it right now. Also, you can try to manage things without deployment and release, and you can set it up at any time. It's compatible with your current setup. So we have added a deployment plan definition. We have added the release timelines, but now let's also assign the systems. And how do I do that? I have created multiple system groups and I can combine all of them in my deployment plan. What is the advantage of doing that? The advantage is if I have multiple parallel projects, then rather than each project lead struggling to find the correct landscape, the project lead can just pick this deployment plan and landscape will be automatically determined for them. So this is the first time that we make project aware of the landscape it's using. So far in SAP Cloud ALM that was not possible. So this is why I think this is a big step forward. So let's just take a mental note of this deployment plan 1910, which has 3 system groups. So now I'll go to my project. The project has now a tab deployment landscape. Earlier, the deployment plan was being assigned in general information. So this is also changed. Now we have a dedicated tab deployment landscape. And in the deployment landscape, you can select the deployment plan. So let's do that. And this is the plan which I just created, 19th October. And you see this deployment plan automatically derives the 3 system groups for me. It also gives me a warning that I should be careful because my previous landscape definition is being overwritten. So that's with the deployment topic. And now let's discuss reporting enhancements. From a reporting perspective, what we have done is we have actually added a new report for defect reporting, which is really interesting. So let's look into that. For test coordinators or test managers, one of the main problem is how do you see trends of created versus resolved. So with this report, you can see it's very visually appealing and you can see is your backlog going up or down when it comes to defect. So we think it's a great addition. So do give it a try and give us a feedback. How do you like it? Then what is also being done is the workstream attribute, which is becoming more powerful since we added custom workstreams. Now workstream attribute is added to the traceability reports as a filter criteria. So that makes the whole workstream handling quite powerful. And if you recall, you can add custom workstreams via Excel upload, and you can maybe define your workstreams as per your RICEF definition, and then you can use them easily in the reports. And now coming to the last update, which is in process management. So in process management, the first main update is release of an API, which was long awaited. So if you go to SAP API Hub, then you see that the process management API is released. You can go to the API reference and it has for scope, solution scenario, and process the schema definition. That means you can use this API to see how many scopes exist and also what's inside those scopes. And you can also do the same thing for solution processes. So definitely that's a great step forward. And then the last update which I want to share is improved integration for CIS. So if you're not aware, let's spend a quick minute on what is CIS in the first place. So it's Cloud Integration Automation Service. There are multiple blogs by the community. If you're not aware, then go read the concept. But the idea is SAP wants the customers to have faster and quicker implementations, and that's why some of the steps are automated. So the automation procedures are linked to the process content that comes via ALM. So when you consume such a process definition, then you automatically are informed if this process has an applicable CIS scenario or not. So let's see how that looks in the system. So I come to my project and let me see if I have scoped something which has applicable CIS scenario. So I have a plant Berlin in which I have a process, and let me go to my process definition and let's see. So I have scoped it already, so I don't need to. So I have this 3UP process, and if I go into the definition of this process, then I can see that there is some instruction to set up cloud integration automation service. So that means as a user, you don't need to worry, will you discover this content or not, because SAP already takes care. And now with this update, we have gone one step further. When you scope this process 3UP, a task is generated automatically for this CIS scenario. So that makes it easy for you to track if you have completed the CIS steps or not. And this task appears in your task list, and it also has deep navigation to CIS. So let's see. And here is the task, and I can click on this link and I can then navigate to the CIS screens directly. That definitely saves a lot of my time. And I can also track if I have done it or if there is something stopping from doing my work. That's all I wanted to share in this video. If you like this, then feel free to comment, share with the community, and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.